I'm known for saying this out loud, but I think that we're coming into the new generation is really value focused. And most 25-year-olds would hear this and go, oh, I can't afford to get property advice. I'm young. And it's like, yeah, you can afford it.
The number one most important thing in terms of getting a great investment result is the decision making.
The people who lose hundreds and thousands of dollars are usually the people who've lost money on a decision they didn't make. I think sellers need to stop getting pissed off and discounting the agent that they don't like hearing what they're saying.
Does getting out of this investment property solve any of those problems or even help any of those problems?
This is a no-brainer. If I'm thinking about investing in property, I need to speak with Shane Fordham or get some advice. Yeah. So what were you saying? In BNI, 45 seconds.
Yeah. Well, yesterday morning I had a fantastic phone call from a client that I've been working with for about 2.5 years now. When they came on board, they had 2 investment properties they'd held for almost 10 years. They were underperforming. They were giving them all sorts of headaches. They were worth combined $200,000 less than what they paid for them 9 years ago, which is an extraordinary amount of money.
Massive amount of money.
But a crazy amount of time to have basically missed out on. We took them through a process of understanding what they might do with those properties. We came to the conclusion they needed to liquidate them, offload them, and then reinvest again. So they did that. They took the hit. We've since helped them buy 2 investment properties. The client rang me yesterday morning just to say thanks and let me know that the second one is almost tenanted. It's just recently been finished. And they have we've had valuation done on one. We'll get a valuation done as soon as the second one's finished and tenanted. But we've probably already made them $250,000.
Jesus.
And both of those markets are still sitting amazingly well from a future growth perspective.
And they've only just got the property tenanted.
Yeah, one's been tenanted for about 6 months now, and the second one will be tenanted probably in the next 8 weeks. They're just in the final stages, almost at practical completion. But looking at the values on both of those, they've already made easy $250K. And they're in markets that we'd be happy to invest in right now. So that's huge, you know. For her to ring me yesterday when I was on the way to a networking meeting, it was bloody awesome. It just felt so good. So
imagine, I meet investors often in my side of work with real estate, and I feel like so often you meet an investor and they've got this. I'll say it the way it is. They've got this big ego and they're like, oh, no one needs to help me choose a property. I know what's best for my family and to make money and blah, blah, blah. And then you hear these stories and it's like it's a no-brainer to go to a professional and start asking them, you know, where's the best place to purchase a property?
Yeah. And what's the right strategy? What's the right property type? All those sorts of things.
And what are you trying to achieve and things like that? From what I've heard, if you're trying to, depending on what your goals are, there's probably a different suburb or a property you'd
absolutely.
consider.
We talk about that with our clients. We understand what are the next steps? What are the big things coming in your life? Have we got any changes coming up? Working with 2 clients at the moment that when we purchased the investment property or when they purchased the investment property, we had to take into consideration that they were going to be on maternity leave in the next couple of years. And so we strategically targeted something that had a slightly higher rental yield so that when the wife goes on maternity leave, the property is looking after itself as much as it possibly could be. Whereas another household that perhaps has got a huge amount of disposable income and no plans of that changing, the rental yield itself isn't as high a priority.
Yeah. So this person that's made $250,000 or their home's appraisal value has changed $250,000, how long has it been since they signed the contract and then got that tenant in there? 3 months or?
Oh, no, since they signed the contract, because both of those properties, they went through construction.
Yeah.
And both of those areas, there was a bit of a wait for the land to title. So they joined us as clients about 2.5 years ago. We probably went through a process for about 6 months because there was that piece of the puzzle where they had to look at selling properties. So we needed to wait until, first of all, they were marketed and sold. Once they did that and we understood their financial position, then we could strategize the next steps. And so it's probably been a little under 2 years since they probably 18 months since they signed contracts, and they were done at the same time, basically. So I was saying to her yesterday, it seems like it's been a bit of a long road getting through this. But when we stop and say, you walked through the door 2.5 years ago, negative 200K, and you've lost an entire property cycle. That's probably more than 200K. Of course,
the time.
I said, we'll get you the money back. We can't get you the time back. And we've already got the money back. So
There's nothing you can do about time.
No.
In 2.5 years, you've just got your money back.
That's right. We all, and that's amazing. It took, not 9 years to lose it, but we've already got it back. And I mean, we sit down and talk about this same client 12 months from now. We're adding another 6 figures on that, no doubt. No doubt.
And the thing is, too, a lot of people would go through a heart-wrenching situation like that. And I feel like from what I'm hearing, too, a lot of people would go, oh, let's look at Bitcoin, or they just remove themselves from property in general. It's like you don't need to go doing these parsimonious and sketchy, not sketchy, but things that you don't really understand to try and make your money back.
Yep.
You just need to go and speak with a professional.
That's right.
I've got a client of mine at the moment, really astute developer. He knows property. He's made a couple of mistakes with the properties that he's purchased because he's wanted to develop them. Obviously, material costs went through the roof and completely changed, and he's about to take a loss on a property.
Fantastic.
It's a part of being a developer.
Yep.
But is that the kind of client, like, for example, do you have developers come to you and say, look, we're thinking about, we want to buy a bunch of new builds or something like that? Like, what kind of clients generally come to you?
Yeah, well, the majority of clients are just mum and dad investors.
Yeah,
They've got their home, they've built up some equity. Maybe the kids have got a little bit older now. Some of the school expenses have gone. Hey, we need to start thinking about our future.
So
and
it's just the normal everyday people who are
everyday people.
Yeah.
Most of them are just regular, ordinary, PAYG, mum and dad just trying to give a better life for the kids.
That is not the perception.
No,
that
it's
is not the perception. The perception is you're dealing with these big developers, but it's just everyday people like us.
Everyday people.
Yeah.
I don't deal with anyone who's a developer. I do have a client who's a builder who uses us for all his investment decisions. So even though he's a licensed, in fact, sorry, I've got 2 builders that I'm working with. I forgot about Johnny. They use us for their investment side of things, and that allows them to build nationally and invest where it makes sense to invest, not just where they can tow their trailer to.
Yep.
And they do their own projects for the business, for their building business.
Yeah.
One of them is a bit more established, is a little bit further down the line. So he's doing almost like projects for fun. Little flips, little renovations, little knocking up little townhouses, and he can do that in his backyard because he's made the decision to partner with us to make a really well-informed decision from the portfolio perspective with a national approach. So, yeah, it's like any industry. You said you had a really successful personal training business, and I use that analogy all the time, actually. Anyone can go to the gym, anyone can push some weights around, anyone can jump on the treadmill, but if you use a personal trainer,
and do you know what you're doing?
Is there any coincidence that the people who use a personal trainer, bigger results?
Don't have injuries.
Safer results.
Yeah.
Quicker results.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's everything from personal fitness to wealth to business to relationships, sport, like everything. It just makes sense if you partner up with someone who has got the experience, the knowledge, the tools. It costs you money to do it, but you're going to get a better outcome.
I'm known for saying this out loud, but I think that we're coming into the new generation is really value focused. So I think a lot of people, especially my generation, would hear what you're saying right now and go, this is a no-brainer. If I'm thinking about investing in property, I need to speak with Shane Fordham or get some advice.
Yeah.
Because it's not my forte. But I think that baby boomer generation is just so money conscious and just so like, why would I pay someone else to do it when I can do it myself?
That's
and it's
right.
like, well, you're paying the other person so you don't mess up. So you don't
right.
lose $250,000, you know?
That's
So you
right.
don't do those things.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a bit of a stigma that's slowly depleting and moving away. And I think a lot of people are going to hear what you're saying right now and go, I need this guy's advice.
It makes sense,
Yeah,
because
it makes sense.
The way we kind of quantify it is property investment, any form of investment for that matter, it's just a series of decision making. And I say the number one factor the number one most important thing in terms of getting a great investment result is the decision making along the way. People say, oh, it's the market or it's the property or it's this. Yes, we need that to do it, but the decision making is what gets you into that particular market or gets you into that particular opportunity.
I've done a lot of like trading, like day trading and swing trading and things like that. And if you read a lot of books on trading, then the people who lose hundreds and thousands of dollars are usually the people who've lost money on a decision they didn't make.
Right.
Because they get analysis paralysis. They don't actually understand what they're doing, so they don't actually make a decision because of fear. When you come in and you remove that fear and you help your clients make the right informed decision, and so they can make money.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
I imagine if a lot of people went back 10 years, even 15 years, and came to you and said, should I buy property in Crichton Lane? I only have this amount. You probably would have given them a really informed decision, knowing your expertise and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine. But most people would have gone, I'm not buying Crichton Lane because of X, Y, and Z. But most of us are kicking ourselves now and thinking when homes were $40,000 out in 3214, we would have bought 100 of them.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
made a killing.
Absolutely. It's a really great point. And people now, property's expensive now, but it's always expensive.
Causing more fear too.
Yeah. The thing is, we look back and we go, yeah, that would have been so cheap to buy a property in, wherever it was, North Lane or Corio. But at the time, the property was worth what it was worth. That's how much it was worth,
And relative to every other suburb.
Yeah.
Around.
It's funny though, isn't it? I remember sharing a video a while back about, words to the effect of, you think property is expensive now? Well, it's always expensive. We go back 10 years and we go, oh shit, we'd love to buy property, but it was expensive then.
And interest rates were totally different too.
Interest rates were different. Property's never been a time where people have gone, gee whiz, how cheap's property at the moment? Let's just get as much as we can. Never. Yes, the prices were less, but it was equally as expensive. Yes, the properties have risen more than the income. I get that, but and I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's never been a time when property was considered cheap. But interestingly, with the client I mentioned earlier about we've made them a couple of 150 or 200,000 already, probably 250. Their son also became a client.
Oh, awesome.
25 years old.
Yeah. Killer age to be starting to do something like that.
Yeah. And this is where...
If I could go back to 25
Mate. Oh, real.
And I'm 28. Like, I'm just saying 3 years. Yeah, sorry, Shano.
I'm similar. Yeah. But I spoke about mindset, psychology. Like, I love that side of it. This client who lost 200 grand over that 9 or 10 year period could have easily said, this property investing game's a crock of shit. I'm out of here. Stuff this. Never touching property again. They didn't. They got back on the horse. They sought advice, and they've got an exceptional result. And they will still get more results. They introduced their son to us. He's 25. We helped him out with his first investment property. That's been tenanted about a bit more actually, probably about 12 weeks ago, thereabouts. We got a valuation done on the property. $170,000 gain from when he signed the contract.
Incredible, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And most 25-year-olds would hear this and go, oh, I can't afford to get property advice. I'm young. And it's like, yeah, you can afford it.
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that market, it's that market, but ultimately we're still ticking the same boxes. It still meets the same criteria.
Yeah.
That client, that young fella, 4 weeks ago, signed his property on his second contract.
Yeah, nice.
Unreal.
And he's 25.
I think he might be 26 now.
Yeah, wow.
He's in that time. So, mate, like, how good is that?
Yeah,
We've gone from that was a fork in the road for his parents. Is property investing a crock of shit? We've lost 200 grand, or do we go and do it a different way?
Yeah.
That kid, I mean, he's your age, mate, he's set for life.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's just been a couple of really good decisions based on really good information. Totally changed the trajectory he's on.
A bit of sacrifice. Now he can have his Disney Plus back and Stan and everything else he likes. Yeah.
And say sacrifice, he was on the phone to me most months and it was hard.
Nervous,
Yeah, nervous. Builders are going broke. Media's carrying on.
I saw this in the media.
My mate told me this. It was hard for him.
Yeah.
But when I said to him at the end, I said, I know it was hard. Was it worth it? Bloody oath.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, it's pretty cool when you get, you know, experiences like that.
I get the other end of the spectrum with my line of work. It's people who are selling their houses want this they want this dream result, and I have to have the conversation sometimes where it's like, you know, I won't say what address it is, but I've got this property where it's been on the market for a week. I've had 15 people through, and 14 of them have walked in and gone, no way, walked out.
Right.
And 15 people coming through your home sounds great, you know. But we've got one offer on the table, and there's a property around the corner that, and I know this because I've met the buyer, they've made an offer on this property that the seller said no when they had no one else interested because it was early days. We want to wait another 2 or 3 weeks. And then this buyer has gone off and bought another property. They've turned around, called the buyer back, this other property. They've called the buyer back and said, hey, you're still there. You know, we're interested in your offer now. And he goes, no, I bought something else. And now they're getting offers $40,000, $50,000 less. So with my job, it's like, without trying to I don't want to force the offer down the client's throat. That's not my job, but just make them aware of the risks involved. Yeah. That, you know, we've got an offer on the table. The stats are saying the things we can't argue with, the reality, the amount of people that have come through are saying that this is too much work, but one person has just got their heart set on your home.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to look at that a little bit logically.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if that same offer comes 3 weeks later, they're probably scooping it up in a heartbeat. But people feel like maybe there's more, maybe there's something else. It's hard.
Yeah.
And that's where we talk about trying to take the emotion out of it. You're probably in a little bit more of a tricky space in the sense that dealing with owner-occupiers, it's a very emotional...
Extremely, yeah.
Very emotional
Whether you're
space.
an investor or an owner-occupier, it's more... It's emotional, but if you're an owner-occupier, it's amplified by about a million.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we work with investors only.
Of course, yeah.
It's a totally different set of boxes that need to be ticked off. But for anyone who's listening, that's wanting to sell their house and they're trying to work out how do they approach getting the right agent, what are some of the maybe the red flags or things they should be considered?
Great question, and I think I've had this revelation recently where I've gone, I think sellers need to stop getting pissed off and discounting the agent that they don't like hearing what they're saying. And if they really love what the agent's hearing, they need to critique them a bit closer.
This is the seller.
The seller, yeah. So if I'm selling my home and I've got 3 agents in my living room, one is saying things that I don't like hearing and one's saying everything that I want to hear.
As in the price?
The price and just marketing and how beautiful my home is and how special those, ugly commission house windows are and everything like that. I probably need to analyze this person a little bit more and really put them on the spot a little bit more. But this person who's telling me things that I don't like hearing, e.g. my price hopes, my home's aesthetics, it needs just to do a little bit of landscaping and things like that, things that I don't want to put in the effort to do, I think I really need to listen to that person a little bit more because it takes guts for that person to sit in front of me and say, hey, I think you're a little bit pie in the sky, or hey, I think you need to pull up your sleeves a bit and do a little bit gardening or things like that.
Interesting.
I think we just talked about emotion with people selling their homes. You need to really step back and try and not be overly emotional and try to go, okay, this guy's woman has got guts sitting in front of me and telling me what I don't want to hear. I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice to be giving to people at the moment.
Interesting. Because people as human beings are emotional. They want to hear what they want to hear. So I've
been asked to leave houses because they haven't heard what they want to hear, and it's been the honest advice.
Yeah, that was my house.
Hurts. That was your place.
To leave all the time.
Yeah,
yeah, right. They take but you're just being real.
Yeah, look, it doesn't happen often. It's happened one time that I've been asked to leave someone's house, and it's been on the market 3 months later, and it hasn't sold.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I think in the long run, you you're doing the right thing by the vendor ultimately. And
Absolutely.
if in that scenario, I'm sure you walked out with your head out high.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I had more time to focus on my clients who respected my honesty and
Yep.
wanted to sell their homes.
And you had an experience recently in Geelong where other agents were telling the client that they thought they'd get a lot more than what you thought the property was worth.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Interestingly, it probably works against them if they're coming up against agents like yourself who are being really honest.
It's funny. It's when I first got back into real estate, I was really nervous about being honest because I said to myself, I would say to myself every day when I went to work, I'm like, I'm going to do this with honesty. It's uncomfortable and it's hard going up against agents who promise high prices, but I'm going to do it. And it just so happens one of the first homes I book an appraisal for, it's this beautiful jaw-dropping miner's cottage that I want more than anything to have the privilege of selling. And the clients are beautiful people as well. And I'm like, God, the first one I have to be tested with, to be honest, and it's this house that I want to sell. And I walk in and there was another agent that walked in and said it was worth 1.8 million. And I said, look, it's a beautiful home. It's spectacular. It's incredible. But I don't know if the market's ready for this yet in Geelong. You put this in South Yarra, oh my God, it's going to go off. It's going to go off. But I just don't know if Geelong's ready for it yet. And they ticked every box. They crossed every T, hand-blown glass, stone bench tops from Artie Domus, hardcore stuff, went over the top. And look, even though I said XYZ price, we still ended up getting a price above that. But they wouldn't have got that price if they started at this pie-high price, scared off all the buyers from the marketplace, and then sat on their stale for 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm doing a total injustice by them.
Yeah.
I created an incredible competition. I got at least 10 groups for every single open home. Everybody that was there, where they were a neighbor, renovated themselves. They were looking at this home saying it was incredible. And every buyer who was interested there at the open home was hearing them say that.
Yep.
It was just an incredible campaign.
Fantastic.
And if I had have told them something that was unrealistic, it would have ruined the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And buyers as well. Like if it's being quoted at a price that's too high, you're not going to get them through the door anyway.
And this is what happens too when you start at a high price. It's okay to start a little bit higher. That's okay. I'm not going to shoot anyone over that. But when you just overload it with a ridiculous price, even if we had this beautiful miner's cottage, this is what happens. The buyer will walk through and it doesn't matter how beautiful the home is. The first thing they're going to say is, how did you come up with this price? They're not going to be saying out loud how beautiful the custom-made cabinetry is or anything like that. They're just going to say, what's this price?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you guys? And that's where their attention's going to go first.
Yep.
Like another client I've said to them recently, they said, oh, we've got 3 bedrooms and a study. Can we advertise it as a 4-bedroom? And I said, It sounds better, hey, because we're going to get more people through the doors. But I can tell you right now, everybody's going to walk into your home and see this great canvas for a beautiful renovation on almost 800 square meters. And the first thing they're going to say to me is, that's not a bedroom, that's a study.
Yeah.
And they're going to be distracted and underwhelmed by the property when I want them to come in and be overwhelmed.
Yeah. I almost do it the other way. Say, oh,
There's an
it's
extra
a
room.
3-bedroom. We could probably make that a 4th.
I could make that a nursery. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Optimistic.
Yeah,
And then we're on
absolutely.
the forward foot with the negotiations.
And people remember how they feel.
Absolutely.
You know, they don't always remember what's said, but they absolutely remember how you made them feel and how the property made them feel.
And the advertising or whatever
all
it
of
is,
that.
everything.
So if you've got 80% of the parties going away with a positive feeling in their belly versus questioning stuff, your result's going to be
That's it.
totally
Yeah.
different.
There's
And
no
we're the same. I'm very honest with the people I sit down with at the very start, and I'm not just going to say what I think you want to hear. You know, I say what I think people need to hear, and we just tell it warts and all.
What's really hard for you to say to some clients sometimes?
Well, I guess perhaps a misconception that I have to correct. Not that it's hard to hard to say to them, but you know, is the difficulty. It's not easy. Like it's a mind bend.
Yeah.
I better not swear. You know, it's a roller coaster, man. Like it's so I think people
And
don't
do a lot of
realise
people
that.
come in and go, hey, I'm going to pay you money, you make me a lot of money? Is that what you're saying? They just come in and just think it's going to be easy?
I think it's more around people perhaps thinking they might be able to just go out and do it on their own.
Okay.
And I say to people,
Yeah.
you don't need our help to go and buy a property. If you've got the cash or the bank gives you the money, you can go and buy a property tomorrow. Let's jump online. You can buy one in 5 minutes. Where you need our help is if you want to strategically invest to build a portfolio. The property that you choose, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, versus the property we can go and find you, in 10 years' time, might have grown the exact amount of money. But where I will bet our bottom dollar is that we can achieve that growth in a much shorter period of time, which then opens up the door to, hey, we can go again. Hey, we can go again. And if we can, I spoke about the decision making, if we can repeat that process 2 or 3 or 4 times, all of a sudden we've got a portfolio that can change the next generation in that family.
And you've got a therapist to vent all your stresses over
Yes.
your
I'm definitely a therapist a lot of times. But I enjoy that. Actually, I really love the psychology of it all.
Yeah.
It's
Just
because I've been
just genuinely helping people through that stuff.
I told you I was on a couch crying, sleeping at a friend's house, freaking out. What the bloody hell am I going to do? So I understand the psychology of it. I respect that it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very open at the start of every
I
meeting with the
wonder,
client.
the people who I've sold houses for and they've found themselves in financial difficulty, I wonder if they could have just caught up with someone like you instead of looking at the what was on paper for them and getting all emotionally caught up and going, we're stuffed.
Yeah,
I wonder if
absolutely.
they could have just called you and just worked something out.
Oh, there's no question that a conversation with someone like myself can help because, and probably the same with yourself, we can look at the circumstances quite objectively. We're not caught up in it because someone's emotional reaction to something is not just their emotions in that moment. It's their lifetime of experiences that trigger different things. And
it's past experiences that are making an emotion right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so people think they can just make a decision on the spot, but the amount of times I've been able to help people look at things from a different angle, not necessarily change their mind, but make sure they're considering all the factors that they might not have been aware of or hadn't thought of, to then have full confidence that they've made the right decision. My favorite story is a young fellow in his late 20s, buying his first investment property. We strategically targeted something that had a bit of a longer title date. He had great income, needed a bit of time to build up the savings. So we had about a 12-month window before land was going to title. And about 9 months into it, he broke up with his girlfriend. His auntie got really sick. He wanted to change jobs. All of the personal life stuff was starting to get a little bit hard, and he just said, "No, I want to get out of this investment property." And he could have, he was still subject to finance, even with that length of time, which we can do in WA. And I had I remember he came into the office and I sat down. And I said, "Tell me all the things that are happening." Let him get everything off his chest, and we listed them out. Now, you can get out of this investment property if you want, no problem. Does getting out of this investment property solve any of those problems, or even help any of those problems? And
you're
his
talking
answer
to
was,
him human to human here.
Yeah, that's right. And
What was his answer? Sorry, I cut you off.
his answer was, well, no, it's actually not going to solve any of those problems. And I said, so if we get rid of the investment property, those problems aren't going to be gone and you're detracting from your future.
Yeah.
If we go ahead with the investment property, those problems aren't going to be solved and you're increasing your potential wealth position.
What's going to happen is going to happen here, but you can still continue with what's going on over here as well.
And so he soldiered on. He's almost finished the build. The market's gone ballistic. I'll do the same thing that I do with all clients. We'll get a valuation at the end of it, and he will have made a substantial amount of money. So I said, look.
And having that reassurance from you, I'm sure he's gone onto his personal life and just put some focus there and put a lot more of his energy there rather than energy into worrying about an investment property, which was not even congruent with what was going on.
No, that's right.
His personal life, completely incongruent.
So he makes that decision to say, get rid of the investment property. Well, you can add another negative thing to that pile, mate, because now all of a sudden you've got nothing going in terms of investments or improving the financial situation. So that's one of my favorite things, and that ability to talk human to human, like you said, care for the client. If we didn't care for clients, like people think you're heartless, you don't care. Well, I would have sort of said, yeah, mate, no worries, get rid of it. Like, but I knew that was the right thing for him.
Hearing this story, it resonates with one home that I sold. It was 150 Asher Road in Lovely Banks. I cold called. I was green in the industry, and I cold called this woman. She goes, "Yeah, come out and appraise my home." I get there. She's borderline Alzheimer's. She was really. I could tell straight away. She barely even knew who I was. Didn't even remember the phone call.
Right.
So I was like, I probably shouldn't walk in this home. So I gave her a pamphlet with some information on me, and I said, "Look, when you need, get your kids to give me a call, and we'll have a chat." I didn't hear from her for about 3 or 4 months. I even tried to call her to check in on her and make sure she was okay, but just no answer. I get a phone call 3 months later from one of her sons, and he goes, "Look, I found this in the house. Mum doesn't even remember how it got here. Have you appraised the house?" And I said, "Look, no, I haven't appraised it, but this is what's happened. I got there and she wasn't doing too well." And he goes, "Yeah, good guess, because she's not doing well at all. This is our family home, by the way. We've had it for 60, 70 years. It used to be a vineyard.
Right.
This is quite sentimental to us. Come over and, let us know how you can help us sell it." And this was a bit of an opposite, actually, because I walked in and I was the highest price. The other agents were saying around 700,000. And I said, "Look, just to put my cards on the table, I think that what these agents are saying is right. The comparables are saying 700,000. But I think it used to be a vineyard. It's a really special home. It's got like some mid-century Art Deco combination going on. It's really cute and quirky, some beautiful bay windows, big shedding out the back. You've still got the vineyard set up if someone wants to keep going at it. I think it's got a little bit more value to the right person." And they said, "Look, we'll give you a shot. No dramas." And what happened, I had 30 groups through the first open for inspection. It went off. And I remember sitting in front of her, and she was quite emotionless. She wasn't well, obviously, And I was sitting there with her and her 2 kids after getting about 5 or 6 offers. And I said, "Look, Margie, I've got 700,000. I've got 750. I've got 780. And then I got to about 800. And she goes, "Oh, really? I was hoping for about 8 to 850, and I've gone, and the kids were happy. They knew she was just being silly." I go, "Oh, good, because I ended up getting you 931,000. And I slid the contract over to her, and she cried.
Wow.
And she was so emotionless for the past 4 months because she wasn't well. And the kids cried. They were just so happy. It had nothing to do with the money, mate.
Wow.
It was just like my family's vineyard just got the price it deserved. Yeah. They met the family who bought it. They were ecstatic.
Unreal.
They absolutely loved it. They're still there till now. They'll probably be there.
Goosebumps, mate.
Yeah, goosebump moments. That's tough. But yeah, it's just those special moments where it's got nothing to do with the getting paid or getting another deal across the line or hitting a KPI, any of that crap. I hate the word KPIs. It's just a family that was just ecstatic. And I still speak to them till this day. And they're the same. They're constantly referring me to friends or at work. They're praising my name. Yeah. And that's why we do this job.
That's special. Yeah. That's certainly why we do the job. I understand that not everyone operates that same way, but
and they turn into robots. You can see those people, and they're these emotionless robots. And you can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I've got a bit of a question a bit out of left field here. I'm curious on a personal level, what is your favourite type of property?
Oh, great question. I love mid-century real estate at the moment because bias. I grew up at 8 Cedar Grove. Love that home. If I could walk up to the owner one day and knock on his door and say, "I want to buy it back," I'll buy it. I just love mid-century real estate. I think it's got a really nice warmth to it. It really respects the Australian land as well. It fits nicely into Australian like herbiculture and gardens and landscaping and things like that. But then again, I'm a sucker for an Edwardian or a Victorian home. Obviously, that's where my heart is in Geelong West, like with Character Homes. Look, I sell modern builds and I deal with modern builds, but I just think it doesn't resonate with me that warmth and sentimental feeling that I have with those kinds of properties. That's what I grew up in.
Yep.
And I even love a post-war home because my nana grew a home, built a
home.
Grew
This
a
is
home.
very clever.
Yeah, planted the
Clever
seeds
lady.
straight out of a suitcase and a home grew. No, she built a post-war home in Preston. And when I look at them, I'm like, yeah, I can picture Nana in that kitchen whipping up a
Unreal.
storm on Sunday lunch. So I'm a sucker for that too. I just like seeing where people's imaginations take them. It's irrelevant whether or not, and I really mean that. Like, it's irrelevant whether it's a post-war or a commission house or whatever it is. I like seeing what ideas people come up with. I think real estate is art. I think I might sound like a bit of a flog to people here, but I think life is art. What gives us inspiration and passion is seeing new ideas and people drawing outside the lines, and that in itself is art. And I think real estate is art. So I like seeing how people are expressing themselves and their ideas.
Yep,
Really do.
fantastic.
I like walking into a home and going, I've never seen this before.
Yep. Fantastic. No, awesome. And one other thing I'd love to know is, I know you're a reader. I like to read as well. If there's just one book you could you could recommend.
I think the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
Because I think that fits in with a lot of people. I think if you're not even a reader, I think 1 page a day, that's all you need to read of it. And if you read it every single year, it's got 1 page for every single day of the year, you'll start to take a lot out of it.
It is actually 365 pages, isn't it?
365,
Wow, and
yes.
That's designed to read one a day.
Yeah. I read it
I
every
haven't
single
heard
year.
it, so I'm going to check it out.
Yeah,
Hopefully a few people listening to this might do the same.
Yeah, someone gave it to me because they didn't want to read it, and it always sits next to me on the bed.
Fantastic. They never read it?
No, it wasn't their thing.
Okay.
Stoicism wasn't their thing. Mm-hmm. It's an ancient Roman philosophy. I might butcher this, but ancient Roman philosophy. It was a school of philosophy back in the Roman era, Roman Empire era, and it's just them trying to brainstorm. It was literally just a diary of them brainstorming the meaning of life and life's philosophy and our emotions and our actions and making just choices and positive and the right choices amongst civilization. But with a lot of poetry in there too. I do like some poetry. What about you? What if someone had to read one book? What would you recommend?
I think a book that everyone needs to read is Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I just think that was one of the first ones I read, and it just totally changed the way I thought. I'm actually partway through it again at the moment. And
rereading a book like that is good.
It's just incredible. That just promotes a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at things. And
I heard something the other day and it really resonated with me, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got this idea out of that book, because I haven't read it, but I've heard him speak plenty of times. He was saying that your perception of what is fair value, of what is a fair price, is generally derived from how you grew up. So if your dad made $50,000, was a great dad and put food on the table and gave you a fun childhood, if you went into your life and see other people doing exactly what your dad did but making $100,000, you'd go, that guy's like asking too much money or being too greedy. But if you meet a guy whose dad made $500,000 a year and was a great dad, looked after his family, gave a lot of fun, did the exact same things as the other dad, you would grow up going, well, $500,000 is a fair thing to achieve. I think what that tells us is that our past experiences are a perception of what is fair. Mm-hmm. So these people who are making more money or having more investment properties, they're not greedy. It's just that your perception is that they're greedy.
Yeah, that's
they're
right.
probably great people.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They're hardworking people and they earn that money. But it's just our perception of what the amount someone makes and what kind of person they are. They're not.
That's right.
They're not in line.
Absolutely.
They've got no relevance.
Something that we talk about very frequently at Logic Partners internally is ego. And we want to make sure that our decision-making, our commentary, our reactions to things isn't driven by ego. And it's not easy. I think, everyone has an ego, but how much of it is influencing your reaction to things? So
and your decision-making.
But that person that's got a few properties or that person that drives a nice car, is your reaction, oh, look at that prick, I haven't got it, so he must be an asshole? Or I wonder how he got there. I'm gonna find out.
Of course.
Young men in particular, it is hard to park the ego. I've got a great client base of particularly guys in their 20s, some lovely young couples in their 30s as well. But seeing them park their ego and just say, hey, I'm not an expert in this, but I want to get it right. It's just so
refreshing
and uplifting.
On the other end of it too, I met a guy the other day who was quite similar age to me, and his ego was massive. But I didn't hate him. It's just like he's going through his own journey. He might have his awakening or whatever fucking you want to call it one day, and he'll just go, you know what, I've got a massive ego and I've got to sort it out.
Yep.
I think all men especially, we're full of testosterone and this competitiveness that sooner or later in our lives we have to park that ego to the side, and people sort that out at different times in their life. Some people when they're 50, but it's not for us to judge them or to look at them poorly or like they're bad people.
That's so true, and that's something that I have definitely learned through my journey with mental health, is understanding now that when someone reacts a certain way, like I might bump into you in a cafe and you're like, oh, you're a bit grumpy off whatever, you give me nothing sort of thing. I've learnt now it's not, oh, what's wrong with Mitch? He's a bit of a prick today. It's, oh, gee, I wonder if everything's okay.
Yes.
That comes with experience. I never used to react like that, but when I went through my, I suppose, darkest times with mental health, trying to put a facade on, trying to be funny to cover it up, completely delivering it incorrectly because just wasn't brain wasn't working, and just pissing people off. But without the experience or having been through that before, a lot of them were just, oh, what's this prick's problem? And it really damaged friendships to the point that even after they realised, oh, it was actually depression, it was actually some major issues, the damage was done, Yeah. It's hard to come back.
When I was working in hospitality once, and I remember this, and I tell this story quite often, there was a woman once who was just being so rude to me in this cafe. I was borderline about to say to my manager, be like, Tom, can I tell this person to leave? Because they're really pushing my buttons. She was being so rude. And she got and sat into the booth, and I've never seen a man speak to his wife so rudely in his life. And I was like, that's why she's having a bad day. And there's welling up for me right now, and I felt really bad for her. And I was like, oh, that's why she's acting like that.
Yeah. So that understanding that, hey, that person's dealing with something, you're not just
that's far bigger than you. Don't worry about you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's far bigger than you. Don't worry. Yeah.
No, for sure. Mitch, mate, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been absolutely awesome chatting with you. You're a ripper dude, man, and I couldn't say more. With more passion that if anyone in Geelong particularly that's looking to work with an awesome real estate agent, Mitch from the Geelong agency is absolutely the man for the job. So thanks for coming on today, mate.
And same for me, genuinely. I honestly didn't know anywhere close to what you exactly did for a role, but I definitely know more today, and I'll definitely be sending people your way.
Happy days, man.
For sure.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.
Legend.